Chapter 3082. Qi was extremely harmful to the human body. If it stayed in a person's body for a long period of time, Zhu Wuxian's body would definitely be greatly affected. The human face skin in Zhu Wuxian's body won't be able to hide for long. Dmo Xian's large palm covered Yiqing Luo's head as he gently rubbed it. His peripheral vision glanced sideways at Zhu Wuxian as his lips tugged coldly. The nutrients that the human face skin needs can only be absorbed through the human face. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up. I understand. The human face skin in Zhu Wuxian's body has no way to absorb Zhu Wuxian's nutrients. The human face skin needs nutrients to maintain its own consciousness, as well as the absorption of Qi. Dmo Xian explained patiently, once the human face skin's nutrients are completely depleted, it will automatically leave Zhu Wuxian's body. By then, the human face skin which has lost its nutrients totally has no energy to resist. Yiqing Luo hugged Dmo Xian's arm, then wait for the human face skin to leave Zhu Wuxian's body on its own. How long does it take for the human face skin's nutrients to be depleted? Mentioning this question, Dmo Xian's face instantly turned black. After some time, he squeezed out a sentence, based on the human face skin's ability, at least half a month, at most 3 to 4 months. Yiqing Luo was stunned. When her vision swept past Zhu Wuxian, she suddenly understood why Dmo Xian's face suddenly turned black. The human face skin was hiding in Zhu Wuxian's body. They wanted to control the human face skin and find the clues behind the human face skin from it. They must wait for the human face skin to leave Zhu Wuxian's body and take the opportunity to control it. But when the human face skin would leave Zhu Wuxian's body was totally uncertain. This also meant that they must keep Zhu Wuxian by their side, constantly paying attention to the human face skin hiding in Zhu Wuxian's body, apart from being able to restrain a person's face in time when it falls off. It was also to prevent the human face skin from quietly leaving when they were not around, and then make a comeback. After all, this human face skin was not only disgusting, it was also extremely disturbing. To make Zhu Wuxian stay by their side for half a month to a few months. No wonder Dmo Xian's expression was so ugly. This was indeed a difficult problem. Could it be? Were they really going to let Zhu Wuxian stay by their side until they lost their dignity? Based on the way Zhu Wuxian and Dmo Xian interacted with each other, Yiqing Luo expressed, the two of them would definitely start fighting at any moment. Just as Yiqing Luo was filled with anxiety, suddenly, a beam of golden light fell from the sky from the underworld palace that was emitting a dark green light. It landed on the rock wall and cut open a huge hole. Everyone was startled, and they looked at the sudden golden light with vigilance. When Yiqing Luo's gaze met that golden light, her slender brows creased tightly. This golden light, this hole, why does he look so familiar? He had a feeling that he had seen it somewhere before. Yiqing Luo swiftly searched through her memories in her mind. Just as he was about to catch something, the huge hole that was flickering with golden light suddenly opened to both sides. Soon after, a dozen golden figures walked out from the opening. The dozen or so figures were extremely fast. It was neat and orderly. But in a blink of an eye, they were already standing neatly in front of Yiqing Luo and the others. 10 over people were dressed in golden shiny armors, giving off a terrifying glow. Chapter 3083. Disdainful of all living beings, arrogant imposing manner, even the air froze in awe. Their appearance was like 1,000 catty boulder, pressing down one by one. Even the usually flamboyant and fearless underworld palace's people all widened their eyes in horror. It's you? Yiqing Luo's vision fell onto the man who was standing right in front. That man had a solemn expression, with an upright and plain-spoken expression. When he saw Yiqing Luo, the man's eyes revealed an astonished look. Librarian of Balance. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a sweet smile. Long time no see. These 10 over people were not others. They were the Librarian of Balance who was attracted by the eruption of her profound jade heart during the battle in the West Continent. The man in the lead was the librarian of balance whom she had met the last time. He was also the boss of these 10 over librarian of balance. You. The librarian stared at Yi Qing Luo, his vision swept across her body, and immediately fell onto the bloody Bai Mei who was lying on the ground. He frowned and spoke solemnly. You are the one who she reported, using illegal means to sneak into the upper realm from the lower realm? From Yi Qing Luo's body, the librarian didn't feel that she had the qualifications to be in the earth realm. But, thinking of Yi Qing Luo, that mysterious power, the librarian's expression had some changes. Yi Qing Luo's smile deepened, her long and narrow eyes also curved. It should be. My father, seems that among the people present, only I am from the lower realm. The 10 over librarian behind him had met Yi Qing Luo previously in the West Continent. They were also clear that their own librarian seemed to have some misgivings towards Yi Qing Luo. Hearing that the person who was reported was her, each of their faces revealed a complicated expression. According to the main god's law, as a person from the lower realm, sneaking into the upper realm has already violated the peace between the realms. Moreover, you were reported by someone from the earth realm, so I have the right to bring you back to the heavenly realm for investigation. The librarian looked at Yi Qing Luo solemnly. Miss Yi, I believe you won't make things difficult for me. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Of course, this is your duty. Many thanks to Yi Qing Luo for seeing the big picture. Librarian saw that Yi Qing Luo wasn't as eloquent as the previous time, which made him unable to rebuke her, and even cooperated with her, so he heaved a sigh of relief. If possible. He really didn't want to meet Yi Qing Luo again. The librarian didn't want to complicate matters further, so he immediately picked up the shackles and walked towards Yi Qing Luo. But before the historian could even get close to Yi Qing Luo, a majestic and terrifying dark force rose from the ground. Transforming into bursts of profound waves, it laid horizontally in front of Yi Qing Luo, blocking the historical administrator's footsteps. The scribe stopped in his tracks and looked in the direction where the profound energy had come from with a dark expression. It's been a long time since we last met. Are the scribes of the heavenly law realm capable of taking away my people right under my nose? His low, husky, magnetic voice was extremely intimidating. Dmo Xian's sleeves fluttered and the profound energy that was stirring up on the ground turned into a hurricane as it struck out. The historian was forced to take a few steps back. When the scribe heard the voice, his face was filled with shock. He looked in the direction of the voice. In his pupils, a tall figure was reflected. The purple robe fluttered, as though it had opened up a pair of wings, overflowing with splendor and glaring. When the historian's vision fell onto that person's face, his entire person was stunned on the spot. Chapter 3084. The historiographer's heart thumped hard. Since the last time in the West Continent, the historiographer knew that this lady named Yi Qing Luo had some kind of relationship with that mysterious and respectable overlord. Perhaps she was just a pet that the overlord used to pass the time. But the historiographer had never thought of this. The Lord Dizun, who could make the realm lord of the heavenly law realm retreat when the name of Dizun was mentioned, he actually fell in love with a lady from the lower realm. If it wasn't for the fact that he had personally witnessed the overlord holding Yi Qing Luo in his arms with a tender and loving look, the historiographer and the other historians would absolutely not believe it. Although Yi Qing Luo was indeed devastatingly beautiful as a flower. But she was after all a lady from the lower realm. The overlord's status was respectable. How could a lady from the lower realm be worthy of him? The expressions of the historiographer and the other historians were extremely complicated and unpredictable. My little Luo is kind-hearted and doesn't want to make things difficult for you. Dmo Xian's low voice rang again, but I don't care if you make things difficult for me. His voice was as calm as water, extremely calm. But when the historiographer and the other historians heard it, they suddenly felt a chill from the soles of their feet to their heads. The historiographer's expression was extremely ugly. I am only following orders. Dmo Xian's thin lips curled frivolously. Following orders? If the historiographer is really such a person who values orders and missions, then you wouldn't easily let go of someone who should be arrested, isn't it? His voice revealed a trace of ridicule and ridicule. The historiographer broke out in cold sweat. Dmo Xian's words had a hidden meaning. The historiographer heard it clearly. It looked like, the last time when he was about to capture the Dark Forces people, the news of them being abducted halfway when they were heading to the heavenly realm, the Overlord already knew about it. The historiographer tried his best to restrain the panic in his heart and tried his best to remain calm. Since the Overlord has spoken personally, I guess this matter is just a misunderstanding. He waved his hand and led his men to retreat towards the golden opening. Retreat. When the court officials saw Dmo Xian, they knew that their mission would not be completed today. Immediately, they retreated behind the scribe in an orderly manner. Wait. The young girl's clear voice was clear and pleasant to listen to. The dozen or so scribes immediately stopped in their tracks. The young lady leaned into Dmo Xian's arms as she lazily raised her slender brows and smiled lazily. It's rare for me to meet Mr. Librarian. Why is Mr. Librarian in such a hurry to leave? The prefect's back stiffened and cold sweat oozed from his forehead. He turned around stiffly and said, Miss Yi, we still have other tasks and it's not convenient for us to stay any longer. Isn't the keeper of scribes on a mission? Yi Qing Luo tilted her head in puzzlement and smiled innocently. After all, I'm indeed not from the Earth domain and was reported by someone. Why didn't you investigate clearly and just let me go? This is a misunderstanding. The scribe's brain spun rapidly as he tried to think of a way to explain. We received a report and rushed here because we were worried that someone would use illegal means to sneak into the land. This would affect the balance between the land and the mortal world. But Miss Yi is the lover of His Majesty, so she definitely did not use illegal means. Chapter 3085. Right. How would they dare to say anything wrong? Yi Qing Luo smiled. This smile, as compared to the previous languid smile, was a little more strange. It was obviously a beautiful smile. However, the historiographer only felt a creepy feeling spread in his heart. As expected. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly and said, since the matter between me and the heavenly Dao realm has been settled, then now. It's time for the matter between you and me to settle it properly. The historian's expression congealed. Miss Yi, what matter do you want to settle with me? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up as she smiled sweetly. Without beating around the bush, she stared at the historian's eyes and spat out 4 words, dark, force. Indeed, the historian's face sunk slightly. He shifted his gaze and frowned. This matter. Heaven Realm has already formulated a corresponding decision. Miss Yi need not ask any further. Did you not hear me clearly, Keeper of the Annals? Yi Qing Luo's smile deepened. What I said is, the matter between me and you has nothing to do with Heaven Realm. The historian's expression congealed. Yi Qing Luo continued to smile. Initially, I trusted Librarian Overseer and wasn't willing to make things difficult for you, so I handed over the Dark Forces, that bunch of motley crew, as well as Yuhan, to you. But, how did Librarian Overseer betray my trust towards you? Her tone was very calm, and there was a hint of a sweet smile on her face. A pair of smiling eyes stared deeply at him. But the more Yi Qing Luo behaved in this manner, the more the historian felt, the more apprehensive he was. He was unwilling to admit that he was scared by a 15-year-old young lady. But the truth was so. His fingers tightened as he spoke with a steely expression. This matter is my responsibility, but I didn't intentionally let them go. Yi Qing Luo kept her smile as she squinted her eyes. Her face exuded some coldness. Explain clearly what happened that day. That bunch of people from the Dark Forces and Yuhan, other than the Wolf Saint technique, should have been brought to the Heaven Realm by the historian and imprisoned in the Heaven Prison. But the people from the Dark Forces, not only were they not imprisoned. Instead, they joined the secluded palace. They stirred up all sorts of trouble. In addition, Yuhan was also jumping around. Even if the historian of balance didn't come looking for her, she wanted to ask the balance historian what was going on. The historiographer's expression was very ugly. The events of that day. It could be said that this was the most embarrassing moment in his history as the balance palm. If it wasn't for the fact that the Heaven Dao Realm Master didn't care about this matter, he might not be able to sit still in his position as the historiographer. The scribe frowned and wanted to avoid this topic. But when he felt Dmo Xian's chilly gaze, like a sharp blade, cutting into his body. In the end, he couldn't withstand the pressure and told them what had happened that day. Mysterious power. After hearing what the librarian said, Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as she muttered these 4 words. She raised her head and looked at Dmo Xian. Xian, these things, based on your strength, can you do it? The heavenly Dao rope was inexplicably severed. An invisible force formed a barrier that prevented the scribe and the other scribes from chasing after the dark forces and Yuhan. To be able to do this under the situation of not showing their faces. It could be seen how powerful the person behind this was. Chapter 3086. That means to say, the person who kidnapped the dark forces has the same ability as you. Yiqing Luo's tone was solemn. In this world, there shouldn't be many people who have the same ability as you. The historian of balance could travel between the various planes and maintain the balance of each plane. It was enough to prove that the historian of balance's ability was absolutely not weak. However, that invisible power was able to easily stop the historian of balance. To be able to snatch someone from the hands of hundreds of historian of balance, without harming a single soldier, making the historian of balance could only watch helplessly, unable to do anything to resist. His ability was absolutely on par with Dmo Xian. At least, he was in existence around Dmo Xian's level. I am also one of them. Being left aside, Zhuwu Xian, who had no sense of existence for a long time, frowned as he spoke in a cold voice. His icy cold eyes fixed on Yiqing Luo. My ability is not any worse than him, and I can totally snatch you from his hands. Yiqing Luo. Her slender brows creased tightly as she stared at Zhuwu Xian in a bad mood. Let's talk about serious matters, don't mess things up. Saying that, her vision returned back to Dmo Xian. Xian, think about it, is there anyone whose ability is similar to yours? There's always someone better out there. There are many people who are stronger than me. Dmo Xian shook his head, but currently, in my memory, I have not met such a person. Yiqing Luo. Did he need to be so confident? Just how powerful was her man? Roaming around various planes, yet he had not met anyone who had the same ability as him? No wonder. The overlord who made the upper realm tremble in fear. Awesome. Librarian took the opportunity to ask, the matter has been explained clearly, Can we go back to report? Of course. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly as she nodded. Librarian was still hesitant, afraid that Yiqing Luo would play some tricks. More than a dozen people carefully moved towards the golden opening. But they heard a young lady's voice coming from behind. That's right. Librarian's heart suddenly tightened. Why is Librarian so nervous? I'm just reminding Librarian, in case in future, Heavenly Realm will bear the infamy. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly, her voice was gentle, as though it didn't have any lethality. The Librarian turned around and forced a smile. Please enlighten me, Miss Yi. Looking at the treasurer, who was obviously filled with melancholy but still forced a smile, Yiqing Luo's smile grew wider. The feeling of bullying others with force was not bad at all. The heavenly law realm exists to maintain the balance between the major realms. You also exist to maintain the balance between the major realms. After Yiqing Luo opened her mouth, her tone turned solemn. I believe that all of you are aware of the recent changes in the Nirvana realm. If someone really wants to use the Nirvana realm to destroy the balance of the various realms, after all the plans are implemented, even if all the historians of the heavenly law realm are mobilized, I'm afraid it will be useless. The historiographer's bitter expression froze and his eyes turned solemn. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. That's all I have to say, the rest is up to you. The librarian's expression was complicated. His lips moved, but in the end, he didn't say anything. He just cupped his fists. Librarian Lord, don't be in such a hurry to leave. Suddenly, another spiritual body floated over. Chapter 3087. Bye. The historiographer's lips trembled and his eyes widened as if he wanted to say something. Baisu's spiritual body floated and interrupted him. Historiographer, are you forgetting something? The historiographer's words were stuck in his throat. However, his eyes were fixed on Baisu without blinking. Then, he stammered, Forgetting what? Baisu smiled. Are you pretending not to notice the will-o-wisp candles around here? Such insidious things appearing in the underworld palace, and there are at least 1,000 of them. Isn't this a violation of the balance of the land? The historiographer's expression changed. Naturally, they had sensed the waves of Yin Qi coming from all directions. However, the historiographer hesitated for a moment and said cautiously, the will-o-wisp candles are indeed insidious, but it is also true that they belong to the land. This is not within our scope of responsibility. Baisu raised her eyebrows and crossed her arms in front of her chest. There was a layer of coldness on her beautiful face. It's not within your scope of responsibility, and you don't care? This. The historiographer felt a headache coming on. Why was he so unlucky today? When he received a report from the land, he thought it was just someone from the lower bound who used some forbidden means to come to the land in pursuit of power. It was just a small matter. Unexpectedly, they were all people he could not afford to offend. And each one was more difficult to deal with than the other. In the face of Baisu's aggressiveness, the historiographer was full of anxiety. After a long while, he forced himself to say, This is indeed not within our scope of responsibility. Even if we want to do something, we can't. After saying this, the historiographer stared at Baisu's expression and immediately said, However, when I return to the heavenly law realm, I will definitely report this matter to the realm lord, and then the realm lord will report it to the upper bound. That was what Baisu had been waiting for. She stretched out her transparent hand and slowly patted the historiographer's shoulder. The hand of a spiritual body could not touch a physical body. However, the historiographer felt a huge pressure. It was as if a 1,000-kilogram boulder was pressing heavily on his shoulder. In that case, I'll have to trouble Lord Keeper of the Historiography to report this matter to the upper realms. Baisu's voice was light, as if she was having a casual chat. The librarian felt a chill down his spine. He nodded vigorously, Yes, of course. Baisu moved her hand away with a smile. Miss Bai, is there anything else? The scribe looked at Baisu's expression and asked tentatively. Baisu continued to smile, Yes. The librarian, he was so tired that he didn't want to resist anymore. Baisu glanced at Bai Mei, who was lying on the ground with a badly mutilated face. Bai Mei made a false report to the heavenly realm because of her personal grudges, slandering Yi Qing Luo for using extraordinary means to sneak into the earth realm and obstructing the normal order of the court officials. Shouldn't the court official handle this matter? The scribe followed Baisu's line of sight. When he saw Bai Mei's terrifying face, he frowned. Chapter 3088. The scribe was speechless. If he hadn't seen Baisu's domineering side just now, the scribe might have been deceived by Baisu. But now, hearing Baisu's words, the scribe knew Baisu's purpose clearly. He coughed softly and gave the two scribes behind him a look. The scribe understood and immediately stepped forward. He lifted Bai Mei up from the ground from both sides. Bai Mei, who had been mourning for her face, suddenly struggled. Sister, you can't do this to me. I've lost my face, and you still want to lock me up in the realm of heavenly law? How can you be so cruel? Bai Mei cried. Baisu cried even more helplessly than her. I don't want to do this, but I don't have time to accompany you, and I can't discipline you, so I let you do such a thing. Your body, hair, and skin belong to your parents. But you actually used this kind of method to change your face. Not only that, but you also absorbed Yin Qi, hurt others, and destroyed yourself. However, Bai Mei didn't listen to Baisu at all, and the words she said became even more unpleasant. Her face was forcibly torn off from her face. As she spoke, the blood on her face kept rolling down. Baisu turned her head, as if she couldn't bear to see Bai Mei like this. She sobbed and said, "Now, in order to frame His Majesty's lover, you even made a false report. If not for His Majesty's kindness, if not, the consequences would not be as simple as being locked up. I'm trying to save you." Speaking of this, she was already choking with sobs. "Mr. Scribe, I'll leave my sister to you. You don't have to respect me or His Majesty. As long as you can teach her what to do and what not to do, you can do whatever you want." Baisu took a deep breath and waved her hand. "I hope Mr. Scribe can take good care of my poor sister. When her transformation is successful, I'll personally go to thank you and take her home." Bai Mei's screams and insults became even more unpleasant. Her face was covered with blood, and her white dress was dyed red. The scribe was also worried that if she stayed any longer, she would be involved in a series of things. Immediately, he called out to the scribe and carried Bai Mei to the direction of the golden entrance. Fortunately, this time, no one stopped him. After the scribe disappeared through the golden opening with the other scribes, the golden light that illuminated the underworld palace also gradually dissipated. The interior of the underworld palace was once again enveloped by a dark green light. The gloomy and eerie atmosphere had returned. All right, everyone has left and the matter should be settled. Let's disperse." Baisu drifted over leisurely, her slightly transparent spirit body wrapped tightly around Yiqing Luo. Baisu's beautiful eyes sized up Yiqing Luo without blinking. He seemed to be examining something. Yiqing Luo wasn't used to this feeling and took a few steps back unnaturally. "Didn't you scram? Why did you come back?" Dmo Xian pulled Yiqing Luo into his arms, blocking Baisu's sight. Baisu floated backward and shrugged, "My poor sister is still here. If you kill her in a fit of anger, I will lose my poor sister, won't I?" Yiqing Luo popped her head out from Dmo Xian's embrace. Chapter 3089. But Baisu's words were indeed true. If she hadn't returned, even if Dmo Xian didn't kill Bai Mei, those people from Hell Palace would not let Bai Mei off. After all, Bai Mei's human face was obviously in cahoots with Ghost Fire Candle. Then Bai Mei would be in cahoots with Dark Palace, who made use of Hell Palace. All along, they were the ones who made use of others and hurt others. Now they had been schemed against. Everyone from Hell Palace was suppressing a raging fire in their hearts. If it wasn't for the fact that Dmo Xian and Baisu were around, they might not be able to hold it in and vent their anger on Bai Mei. Dmo Xian squinted his long peach blossom eyes and didn't bother about Baisu as he looked at the person in his arms. "How do you want to settle the people from Hell Palace?" It could be said that with Dmo Xian around, even if Yiqing Luo killed the people from Hell Palace in the Earth Realm, the balance historian wouldn't come looking for trouble. Presumably, that historian didn't want to meet Yiqing Luo anymore. Yiqing Luo wrapped one arm around his waist as she pondered for a moment, temporarily. Don't kill them. The people from Hell Palace had been made use of by Dark Palace. In terms of revenge, Xia Ba and Lang Yan, these two proud and arrogant people, had been crippled. They had become useless people who needed people to serve them even when they were eating, drinking, and defecating. To them, this was the most severe punishment. As for the others, since Dark Palace liked to play such tricks, she might as well retaliate. Like Hell Palace, a place where the united and fearless lunatics gathered. Just like Dark Palace, they were perverts who liked to cultivate those sinister forbidden cultivation methods. After finding out that Dark Palace had schemed against them, they wanted to use their power to nurture Yin Qi and human face. How could they possibly let Dark Palace off? Dark Palace wanted to make use of Hell Palace to deal with her and Dmo Xian. Then, they could also make use of Hell Palace to deal with Dark Palace. Apparently, Dmo Xian had the same thought as her. The two of them smiled at each other as their brows were filled with warmth and sweetness. Cough. Cough cough. A hurried cough was heard. The two of them immediately looked over. Zhu Wuxian's face was cold as he raised his right hand. My hand hurts. Dmo Xian's brows creased slightly as he squinted his peach blossom eyes in displeasure. Now you know pain. Yiqing Luo squinted at him. You deserve to die from the pain. If it wasn't for the fact that he refused to let go of her. How could a human face have the chance to hide in his body? Why did he cause so much trouble? Now, in order to force Chu Wuxin out of his skin, who knew how long he had to keep Chu Wuxin by their side? Not to mention that between Chu Wuxin and Dmo Xian, there was a possibility that a fight could break out anytime. Let's talk about what happened in the Nirvana realm. About the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Regarding the corpse puppets. The matter of gathering sacred beast pearls. She simply did not have any extra time to take care of Zhu Wuxin. Zhu Wuxin's face became even darker and colder. You think that I shouldn't be in pain? Can you stop messing around? Towards Zhu Wuxian's train of thought, Yiqing Luo was rather helpless. Given Zhu Wuxin's character, she couldn't tell him directly that she wasn't the person who had made a promise to him when they were young. Zhu Wuxin was the kind of person who would rather die in glory than live in dishonor. If he knew that she had taken over the original Yiqing Luo's body, then there was a high possibility that they would become enemies. Becoming enemies with Zhu Wuxin was absolutely a headache. Zhu Wuxin's eyes were sinister and his deep cold eyes were deep and gloomy. Chapter 3090. Zhu Wuxian's action made Yiqing Luo turn pale with fright. Just as that palm was about to strike Zhu Wuxian's right hand. Suddenly, a ray of purple light flashed past. It set off a profound wave in the air, blocking Zhu Wuxian's palm. Dmo Xian retracted his hand as his brows were filled with impatience. If you want to die, then die further away. Don't dirty Lil Luo's eyes. Zhu Wuxian's left hand was immobilized by a ray of purple light. His face still bore an indifferent expression. Yiqing Luo frowned as she strode towards him. Zhu Wuxian, do you know what you're doing? Seeing her getting closer, Zhu Wuxian raised his head slightly. His thin lips curled up as he revealed an undetectable smile. On that cold face, the contours of his contours became gentler. His cold and deep eyes gazed deeply at her. As though he wanted to see her into his eyes, into the depths of his heart. That feeling made Yiqing Luo not feel used to it. You feel that it's wrong for the human face skin to merge into my body. I want to chop off my right hand, in this way. The human face skin will no longer be in my body. His thin lips moved slightly as his voice was extremely icy cold. But if one listened carefully, she could still tell the lightness and smiling intent in his tone. Yiqing Luo, this was probably a self-masochistic pervert? Why did she feel that? Was Zhu Wuxian using another method to flirt with her? She didn't like it and felt that it was wrong. So he wanted to chop off his own right hand so that she would like it, so that she wouldn't be angry? What kind of flirting technique was this? Who told him? She totally didn't feel touched, all right? Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she no longer had the energy to ridicule him. Towards Zhu Wuxian, she couldn't see through what he was thinking. Her slender brows creased as she stared at Zhu Wuxian with a solemn expression as she said word by word, the human face skin is already in your body. This is an indisputable fact. What we need to do now is to wait for the human face skin to lose its nutrients and escape from your body before subduing it. I'm very serious and solemn reminding you that it's not because you chop off your own hand that I will feel guilty and accept you. It's not that I'll pity you, sympathize with you, and accept you because you've made yourself miserable, and pitiful. Yiqing Luo's words were heavy. It was also blatantly shattering Chu Wuxin's feelings for her. Seeing Zhu Wuxin's face turn pale, the light in his eyes dimmed. Yiqing Luo shifted her gaze away, not regretting what she had said. She gave Chu Wuxin hope and then watched as Chu Wuxin kept pestering her. This was truly cruel to Zhu Wuxin. If you don't love, don't give me hope. Also, don't be ambiguous. After a long while, Yiqing Luo saw that Zhu Wu Xian didn't open his mouth for a long time, so she announced her decision. The human face skin is in your body, so before it leaves your body, you will stay by Xian and my side. Chu Wuxin raised his head. His jet-black hair was scattered messily on his face. A faint smile appeared on his grave and stern face. All right, he replied. Yiqing Luo met with Zhu Wu Xian's deep gaze, and that gaze contained some gentleness. She frowned, and in case Zhu Wu Xian misunderstood anything, she explained, the human face skin's yin qi is very heavy. If you're controlled by the human face skin, at least Xian is able to suppress it, so we let you follow us. Emin, Zhu Wu Xian swiftly responded. Chapter 3091. Why did it feel like Zhu Wuxin really wanted to stay by their side? However, since Zhu Wuxin was so cooperative, the rest could be ignored. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath as she looked at Zhu Wu Xian. Then your death god castle, as well as other matters, leave it to your trusted people to handle. You will return with us. She paused. Just as she was about to say the word Imperial Palace, she stopped herself. No, Chu Wuxin and Dmo Xian were obviously not on friendly terms. It was not that she did not believe in Zhu Wuxin. But, it was related to the Imperial Palace, it was related to Dmo Xian. If Zhu Wuxin entered the Arch Palace, he would know the correct location of the Arch Palace. Anything that would damage the Imperial Palace. She could not forgive Zhu Wuxin, nor could she forgive herself. She pursed her lips and was about to say, Three Springs Sect. Her delicate body was caught by a force, and her body was pulled into a warm embrace. When we arrive at the Arch Palace, just arrange a room for us. Dmo Xian cast a cold glance at Zhu Wu Xian. The Imperial Palace's spiritual qi is able to suppress the yin energy in the human face, reducing the chances of you being controlled. Zhu Wuxin raised his eyebrows. His cold face was devoid of any emotion as he indifferently spat out a word, oh. Following that, he shifted his gaze onto Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo frowned as she didn't want to continue tangling with Zhu Wu Xian. She had said a few more words to Zhu Wuxin just now. She was so close to Di Zun that she was already jealous. Let's return to Nirvana Realm. Yiqing Luo wrapped her arms around Dmo Xian's waist as she spoke. Dmo Xian embraced her and both of them returned to the carriage. Zhu Wu Xian's gaze was deeply fixated on Yiqing Luo's back, and it was until the veil blocked her figure before he lifted his foot and walked over. Before he even got close to the carriage. Ah, Lei and ah, you were already standing in front of the sedan. Young Master Zhu, if you are exhausted, I can lend you my battle pet. Zhu Wuxin's gaze landed on the carriage. That's the exclusive seat of the Overlord and Madam. Ah, Lei deliberately emphasized the words, Madam. Zhu Wuxin's brows furrowed indiscernibly. After pondering for a long time, he closed his eyes. Immediately after, a green light flashed, and a deafening howl resounded. In front of him was a giant green wolf with fur that was as sharp as blades. His sharp fangs shone with a cold light under the dark green light. Zhu Wu Xian leaped onto the back of the green wolf. Ah, Lei and ah, you looked at Green Wolf's expression with a hint of surprise. But soon, he put away the expression on his face and stood by the side of the carriage. Little Nine's tail moved. Dragging the carriage, it slowly floated in the air. Lord Di Zun, Lady Di, when the people from the Underworld Palace saw that they were planning to leave, they immediately grew anxious. Old Lai held his wound and staggered forward. Lord Overlord, Madam Emperor, these ghost fires, what should we do with the ghost fire candles? The rest of the people from the Underworld Palace also rushed forward. Lord Overlord, Madam Emperor, although the Underworld Palace has never been principled, we have our own rules. This time in the Nirvana Realm, we, the Infernal Palace, are responsible for hurting the Lady D. Since the Lady D didn't pursue this matter, the Infernal Palace owes you a favor. If there's anything that you need the Infernal Palace's help with, the Infernal Palace will definitely go through water and tread on fire. Ghost fire candles. Whoever taught you how to make them, find that person to help you settle these ghost fire candles. Yi Qing Luo lifted the veil as she spoke in a calm tone. Chapter 3092. The faces of the people from the underworld palace turned solemn. After exchanging glances, they seemed to have understood the meaning behind Yi Qing Luo's words. A trace of viciousness flashed across old Lai's eyes. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. We will definitely look for the Palace of Darkness and demand an answer. I only hope that when the time comes, you can still maintain your current thoughts. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes swept past the crowd from Underworld Palace calmly. That bunch of people from secluded Darkness Palace. Not only are their methods outstanding, their control over people's hearts is also outstanding. In other words, if they came looking for them, the gloomy palace would naturally think of a way to appease them. The faces of the Underworld Palace's people were filled with anger. The human heart? We don't have a so-called heart. We were tricked by Gloomy Palace once, but we will not be tricked a second time. Yi Qing Luo smiled. I hope so. Regardless of whether Miss Yi accepts it or not, according to the rules of the Hell Palace, the Hell Palace owes you a favor. In the future, if Miss Yi comes to the Earth domain and has any needs, the Underworld Palace will definitely do its best. The people of Underworld Palace insisted on their own rules. Of course, the reason why they chose to adhere to the rules of the Underworld Palace was not only because they had to abide by the rules that they themselves had set. Instead, the power behind Yi Qing Luo. Everyone could see that. Although Yi Qing Luo was just a lady from the lower realm. But the people around Yi Qing Luo. Each of their statuses was more impressive than the other. Even the historian of balance from the heavenly law realm did not want to provoke her. No matter how unafraid they were of death, they weren't willing to become enemies with Yi Qing Luo. Most importantly, they had a common enemy, Abyss Palace. Yi Qing Luo and the rest left the Hell Palace. The carriage floated in the sky, followed by a huge green wolf. Through the veil, Yi Qing Luo could clearly feel Zhu Wuxian's burning gaze. Yi Qing Luo wanted to open her mouth several times to make Zhu Wuxian shift his gaze away. She was also worried that if she said it out loud, her boyfriend's vinegar jar would overturn again. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she leaned her petite body further into Dmo Xian's arms. Dmo Xian's long arm gently embraced her as he lowered his eyes to look at the person in his embrace. His deep inky eyes shot a cold glance at the person who was following behind him. A dark glint flashed across his eyes. Following that, he lowered his head and gently kissed Yi Qing Luo's hair. Lil Luo, rest for a while, we'll reach the Imperial Palace very soon. Huh? Yi Qing Luo didn't quite understand the meaning behind Dmo Xian's words. Just as he was about to raise his head. But when he moved, she could smell the elegant sandalwood scent on the man's body. Bit by bit, it surrounded her body. The smell of sandalwood was extremely elegant and intoxicating. Just as his body and mind relaxed, her eyelids became heavier and heavier. After that, he fell into a deep slumber. Dmo Xian lowered his eyes as he listened to the girl's gentle breathing. He gently moved the girl's body into a comfortable position in his arms. Then, he raised a hand, and his sleeve fluttered. In the blink of an eye, he took off his purple robe and wrapped it around the young girl's body. How much longer are you going to watch? Dmo Xian hugged Yi Qing Lu tightly as he spoke in a cold voice. Outside the carriage, it was silent. Dmo Xian's eyes turned cold as his voice turned even colder. No matter how you watch, Lil Luo, will not be yours. Your actions will only make Lil Luo, feel troubled. Perhaps it was because of the mention of Yi Qing Luo. Outside the carriage, a huge shadow immediately shrouded over. Chapter 3093. Zhu Wuxian was lying on the back of the green wolf. The huge green wolf's thick fur wrapped around his body, revealing only his grave and stern face. Zhu Wuxian looked coldly at the two people in the carriage who were tightly hugging each other. His black eyes shone with a deep light. If it bothers you, give her back to me. His voice was calm and cold. As long as she's mine, she won't be troubled. Zhu Wu Xian's words made Dmo Xian's brows creased even tighter. Zhu Wu Xian, Lil Luo, was never yours. What do you mean by returning it to you? What do you think little Luo, is? Treat her as my woman, Zhu Wuxin said with a sinister expression. Zhu Wu Xian. Dmo Xian's eyes were deep and serene as he spat out these 3 words in an icy cold tone. All of a sudden, flames erupted from his body. Even the 4 maids and 2 protectors outside the carriage couldn't help but shiver. Zhu Wu Xian's thin lips curled up. There was not the slightest hint of a smile on his face. Instead, there was a hint of disdain and mockery. Trying to persuade me to give up Yiqing Luo? Are you trying to persuade me to fulfill your love? His black eyes narrowed, and coldness spread from his pupils. There was also a hint of mockery in his tone. What a pity. I, Zhu Wuxin, have never been a gentleman, and I don't have the thought of helping others achieve their dreams. His voice turned gloomier and gloomier, as though it was wrapped in frost. Yiqing Luo is mine, the future will only be mine. If I can't get her, I'd rather destroy her than to fulfill your wishes. The expression on Dmo Xian's face turned increasingly ruthless and gloomy. The might released from Xiao Chen's body caused the surrounding curtains to flutter wildly. The 4 maids were so nervous that they didn't dare to move. Ayu glanced at Zhu Wu Xian and cursed him 100 times in her heart. This Zhu Wuxin was seriously too ignorant of what was good for him. He dared to snatch Di Zun's woman, and he even dared to be so arrogant. If the overlord was angry, he could tear him apart with his bare hands. Even Ayu and Ale, the 2 guardians, were somewhat unable to withstand the powerful pressure. They turned their pleading gazes towards the mistress of the imperial palace who was sleeping soundly in Dmo Xian's arms. Di Zun was furious. Only the mistress could pacify him. However, no matter how arrogant the Di Zun was, and how majestic his aura was, Yiqing Luo wasn't affected at all. Her lips still hung a faint smile as her hands wrapped around Dmo Xian's waist. Obviously, she was having a sweet dream about Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian had already tried his best to suppress his urge to kill Zhu Wu Xian. He understood Yiqing Luo. He knew his woman. To Yiqing Luo. She thought that she had taken over the original identity of Yiqing Luo. Because of her existence, she had gone against the original Yiqing Luo and Zhu Wu Xian's promise when they were young. She more or less felt a little guilty towards Zhu Wuxin. In particular, Zhu Wuxin had saved her several times because of the promise he made when they were young. Yiqing Luo was very grateful towards Zhu Wu Xian. If he really killed Zhu Wuxin, there would definitely be a barrier between him and Yiqing Luo. Dmo Xian's eyelids drooped as he gazed deeply at the person in his arms. Soon after, he forcefully shut his eyes as he restrained the vicious aura around him. Zhu Wu Xian didn't have the mood to tangle with Dmo Xian any further. For a moment, they were both speechless. This strange atmosphere. It made the 2 guardians shiver uncontrollably. The 2 of them were in a stalemate. They were afraid. The 2 of them remained silent. They also felt their hairs standing on end. They were very suspicious. Letting Zhu Wu Xian stay in the imperial palace. Chapter 3094. Imperial Palace. Yiqing Luo woke up when Dmo Xian carried her back to her princess-like room. The minute she opened her eyes, she saw the entire room in pink. Yiqing Luo went into a daze for a moment. After some time, her vision was fixed on Dmo Xian's face. "We're back?" She was still thinking of seeing how Dmo Xian brought her through the realm door. How could she be so disappointing, falling asleep in the carriage? It seemed, on the way to the Hell's Palace, she felt dizzy for a moment and then they reached the Hell's Palace. Thinking of the sandalwood scent she smelled before she fell asleep. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as her eyes suddenly widened and her little hand grabbed Dmo Xian's collar. "Tell me honestly, did you intentionally make me fall asleep?" Dmo Xian's slender long hand caressed her lips as he gave a low and hoarse smile. Isn't it because you wanted to stay in my arms, so you fell asleep? Yiqing Luo opened her mouth and bit his finger as she stared at him resentfully. Don't think that by teasing me, you can change the topic. Tell me honestly, you made me fall asleep. What unspeakable things are you planning to do behind my back? Do what? What do you think? His low and hoarse voice was filled with magnetism. His finger intentionally teased between her teeth. His gaze was filled with infatuation. It was an obvious indication of some kind of feelings. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red. She bit hard on his finger and immediately let go. Don't use this method to change the topic, I don't fall for it. Pretty boy trick or something. Use it a few more times. She would also develop antibodies all right. Dmo Xian laughed lightly as he bent down and planted a kiss on her lips. All right, I admit that I'm the reason why you fell asleep. His forehead was placed on hers. The distance between the two of them was very close. Why? Yiqing Luo asked. Dmo Xian caressed her face gently. I don't want you to see me finding trouble with Zhu Wu Xian. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as she abruptly sat upright, pulling the distance between the two of them apart. You and Zhu Wu Xian fought? The minute she fell asleep, the two of them started fighting? Indeed, letting Zhu Wuxin stay in the imperial palace was a wrong choice. I don't have the habit of taking advantage of others. Dmo Xian pinched her nose. Yiqing Luo's hands held onto his mischievous large palm. Where did you arrange for Zhu Wu Xian to stay? Guest room. The human face hiding in Zhu Wuxin's right arm was a hidden danger. No matter how much he disliked Zhu Wuxin, Dmo Xian would not arrange for Zhu Wu Xian to be too far away from him. He held on to her hand as his body leaned downwards. A rich male hormonal scent enveloped Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's back fell onto the soft big bed. She raised her eyes and met the man's deep peach blossom eyes. The flowing light was overflowing with a myriad of splendor. Yiqing Luo, who had already said that she had developed an immunity to the seduction, was once again mesmerized by the man's magnificent looks. I don't like the sound of his name coming from you. Dmo Xian lowered his head and captured her lips. This kiss was extremely forceful. Yiqing Luo didn't even have time to struggle before she was completely drowned by the man's scent. Until a rhythmic knocking sound was heard outside the door, interrupting the warmth and sweetness in the room. Dmo Xian's expression was extremely ugly, with an unsatisfied expression. Yiqing Luo pushed him away as she speedily tidied up her clothes and coughed lightly. What's the matter? Madam. Chapter 3095. Beiyuan? Yiqing Luo immediately pushed away the man who wanted to hug her and slid down from the pink princess bed. Tang Beiyuan was under Dmo Xian's orders to personally send Gu Jingyu back to Wind Valley sect. I have something urgent to report. Could it be, what happened? Although she could not respond to Gu Jingyu's feelings. But for her, Gu Jingyu was also her friend. Yiqing Luo opened the door and walked out. What happened? Tang Beiyuan cupped her fists towards Yiqing Luo. Mistress, something has happened in South Water Continent. Something happened? Yiqing Luo frowned. What happened? Tang Beiyuan was just about to speak when she saw Dmo Xian walking out of the house with a gloomy face. Her vision swiftly swept past Yiqing Luo's lips. He took another look at Dmo Xian's expression. As someone with a fiancé, she naturally knew what had happened in the room earlier. Tang Beiyuan lowered her head in silence. Yiqing Luo turned her head back and took a look at the gloomy man behind her. She stretched out her hand and held his large palm. Dmo Xian's expression then eased up a little as he glanced at Tang Beiyuan. Speak. When I brought young sect Master Gu to the Wind Valley sect, I discovered that South Wave Continent has already. Tang Beiyuan's expression was grave. It has already been plunged into misery and suffering. It is said that the monarch of South Wave Continent has already fled. The people will be plunged into misery and suffering? Yiqing Luo was stunned. South Wave's continent is one of the more developed continents among the 4 continents. Why would they suddenly start a war? Which continent attacked the South Waves continent? No. Tang Beiyuan shook her head. The Wind Valley sect master said it happened half a month ago. It was a group of monsters. It said that no matter what we do, we won't be able to kill them. They're impervious to swords and spears, fearless of fire and water. We can only watch as they slaughter one city after another. Unkillable? Corpse puppet? The first thing that popped up in Yiqing Luo's mind was the appearance of the corpse puppet. Apart from the Dark Palace's corpse puppets, Yiqing Luo couldn't think of any other unkillable monster. Tang Beiyuan had never seen a corpse puppet before, so she wasn't sure what Yiqing Luo was talking about. She paused for a moment, then continued, "When I left, South Waves continent had already been occupied by Dark Nether Palace. Now, only Wind Valley sect is still defending South Waves continent, but I'm afraid they won't be able to hold on for long. It really is a corpse puppet." Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth. The Palace of Seclusion found someone to replace Yuan so quickly? After Yuan died. The process of refining corpse puppets should have been interrupted because of this. How could he adjust in such a short time? He could even bring his undead corpse puppets and invade the South Waves continent? Could it be that, right from the start, the Palace of Darkness had already prepared a backup plan? Yiqing Luo looked at Dmo Xian as she asked in puzzlement. Dmo Xian's expression turned grave. "I'm afraid the secluded palace are worried that we will take the opportunity to reduce their forces, so they are so anxious to expand their own forces." His eyes were deep. "The matter of us going to the Underworld Palace, the Palace of Darkness should already know about it. The act of the Palace of Darkness invading the South Waves continent has further confirmed our guesses." Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. "Their motive is really to take over the entire Nirvana realm." But Yiqing Luo couldn't understand why the person behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness, that person with a distinguished status in the upper realm, had such a deep obsession towards the Nirvana realm. Chapter 3096. Call for help? Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. The way to deal with the corpse puppets, other than Xian's mental power, the only way is to extract the Serene Yin's mental power to refine a weapon to kill them. Time is so tight, Yu Yin's mental force has not been extracted, and refining weapons also requires time. Even if the Wind Valley sect asks for help from the Imperial Palace, the Imperial Palace has no way to deal with those monsters. The Emperor Palace's disciples were all living people with flesh and blood. How could they be compared to the corpses of those puppets? The Imperial Palace is unable to agree to the Gufeng sect's patriarch's request for help. Yiqing Luo's expression was solemn. "Beiyuan, please reject the Gufeng sect." Tang Beiyuan nodded. Just as she was about to turn around, she was stopped by a voice. "Beiyuan, agree to the Wind Valley sect." "Ah, Xian." When Yiqing Luo heard Dmo Xian's words, she immediately grabbed his arm tightly. "You should be more familiar with the Imperial Palace's disciples than me. Their mental powers could not possibly be higher than Serene Yin, who specializes in mental powers. Unless his mental strength was higher than Yuan. Otherwise, the corpse puppets wouldn't be able to destroy it at all. Most importantly, the Yin Qi on the corpse puppets could easily corrupt a person's heart. "Listen to me." Dmo Xian raised his large palm and stroked her hair, comforting her. "Whether it's for public or private reasons, we can't let Netherworld Palace occupy the South Water continent. Once Nether Palace absorbs the forces of the South Waves continent, the other 3 continents will be restrained. If the Tenyu Palace develops, the Imperial Palace will become a stepping stone for the Tenyu Palace, and the Nirvana realm will cease to exist." Yiqing Luo was stunned. Her pink lips moved, but she couldn't say a single word of rebuttal. Indeed. The target of the Dark Nether Palace was obviously the entire Nirvana realm. The southern continent was just a starting point. If secluded Darkness Palace invaded the South Water continent and then attacked the West Water continent in one fell swoop, the West continent, which had just experienced a great battle with the Dark Forces and was still recuperating, was definitely no match for the undead corpse puppets. In this way, the East and North continents would be in imminent danger. She and Dmo Xian had gone to the Underworld Palace. The palace of gloomy darkness must have known through by May's thick skin. They must also know that the balance historian of the heavenly law realm had met with them. However, the Dark Nether Palace still dared to invade the South Water Continent in such a wantonly manner, directly targeting the entire Nirvana realm. Clearly, he was not afraid of the heavenly law realm interfering. Or perhaps, the person behind the Tenyu Palace had a higher status than the heavenly law realm? But, if his status was so high, why did they have to target a small shrimp like her? Why did he have to invade the entire Nirvana realm? Just because she was together with DMO Xian? Just because DMO Xian stayed in Nirvana realm, it caused the people behind the Nether Palace to feel that there was some unspeakable secret in Nirvana realm? No, something was not right. If the other party was really as she guessed. His status was above the heavenly law realm and he was mysterious and noble. Unless it was necessary. The other party would never take such a huge risk to destroy the balance between realms that had been maintained for centuries, or even millennia. Little Luo, DMO Xian's voice rang once again. His hand, gently placed on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and met his gaze. The most important thing is. DMO Xian looked at her, agree to Wind Valley Sect's request for help. Then you can let Wind Valley Sect use the Vermilion Bird Pearl as an exchange condition. Vermilion Bird Pearl. Yiqing Luo suddenly understood, the main reason why you agreed to Wind Valley Sect's request for help, is because of the Vermilion Bird Pearl? DMO Xian didn't refute. Chapter 3097. More than that, it was still a warm current. She disregarded her shyness and Tang Beiyuan's presence. She stretched out her arms and wrapped them around DMO Xian's waist. She leaned her body completely into DMO Xian's arms. Agreeing to Wind Valley Sect's request for help. Ultimately, it was all for her. In order to help her collect the 4 sacred beasts' pearls, in order to open the door to the upper realm. Ah Xian, thank you. She spoke in a hoarse voice as her little face rubbed against his arms. The man's strong arms wrapped around her tightly. His broad and warm embrace gave her a great sense of security. He chuckled as his magnetic and mellow voice floated down from above her head. Silly girl, I'm not only doing this for you, but also for myself, for our future. While speaking, DMO Xian had already bent down and pressed his thin lips against her ear. The man's warm breath sprayed out. He smiled, I really can't wait to make you my wife. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled slightly. Her fingers which were clutching the man's robe unconsciously curled up. Her little face which was buried in the man's arms was stained with a few patches of red. Beiyuan, go and reply to Wind Valley Sect. DMO Xian gently caressed Yiqing Luo's fine black hair as he looked up at Tang Beiyuan. Bring the conditions that I have mentioned over. Yes. Tang Beiyuan responded. Wait. Yiqing Luo popped out her little head from DMO Xian's arms. Beiyuan, leave the matter of replying to Wind Valley Sect to others first, I still have something to trouble you with. Tang Beiyuan was stunned for a moment before she nodded, yes, mistress. Hearing Tang Beiyuan's serious address, Yiqing Luo's temperature which had dropped with great difficulty rose again. She pursed her pink lips and said, if it's possible, ask Wind Valley Sect's patriarch if they can hold on for another 3 days. 3 days later, the Imperial Palace will definitely rush over. 3 days. Tang Beiyuan was slightly hesitant, the situation in South Continent isn't too optimistic, 3 days, might be a little difficult. First bring a portion of the Xian generation disciples to South Continent. 3 days later, I will personally go over with little Luo, DMO Xian said. Tang Beiyuan answered, yes. After Tang Beiyuan left, DMO Xian Huan hugged Yiqing Luo's petite body tightly as he cupped her little face with one hand. Want Beiyuan to refine a batch of weapons to go against the undead puppets in these 3 days? Yiqing Luo's hands wrapped around his neck. No one knows me better than Xian, you're really a roundworm in my stomach. Indeed, this was what she had in mind. Within her azure dew bracelet, a dark and sinister mental energy was sealed. First, he extracted a portion of his mental power and let Tang Beiyuan use it to refine a portion of the weapons. At least when it came to undead puppets, he wouldn't be in such a sorry state. Chapter 3098. 3 days later. Yiqing Luo and Tang Beiyuan walked out of the armament refining hall. Their fine black hair was in a mess, their faces were haggard and their eyes were green, showing signs of fatigue. Yiqing Luo yawned, and as she walked, she glanced sideways at Tang Beiyuan. Beiyuan, go back and rest first. What about you? After 3 days of refining weapons together, Tang Beiyuan finally changed the way she addressed Yiqing Luo and called her by her name. Yiqing Luo stretched her waist lazily. Let's not waste any more time. I'll go back and tidy myself up, then bring the weapons and head toward South Continent with Ah Xian. I'll go too. Tang Beiyuan's lips curled slightly, her eyes were filled with fatigue, but it didn't hide the melancholy in her eyes. I'll go back to tidy myself up now, wait for me. You. Yiqing Luo frowned. You should be very clear that the trip to South Continent might be life-threatening. I know. Tang Beiyuan smiled. That's why I have to go. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips in silence. Tang Beiyuan patted her shoulder lightly and smiled calmly. Moreover, these weapons to deal with the puppets are all refined by me. If I go with you, it will be easier for me to bring out the best effect and advantage of each weapon. Think it through carefully. Yiqing Luo didn't try to dissuade her, she respected everyone's choice. After making an appointment to meet Tang Beiyuan at the entrance of the palace, Yiqing Luo walked towards the courtyard. She just turned around. The familiar and elegant scent of sandalwood entered her nostrils. Her eyes lit up as her lips curled into a smile. Sorry, I was dealing with the palace's matters earlier, so I'm late. The man's gentle and magnetic voice floated down from above. Yiqing Luo was exhausted as she unceremoniously leaned her weight into Dmo Xian's arms. Carry me back as punishment. She just wrapped her arms around Dmo Xian's waist. Yiqing Luo suddenly thought of something as her face congealed in satisfaction, and she hurriedly stretched out both hands to push Dmo Xian. Wait, you can't carry me now. She just struggled. The man's arms suddenly tightened. The rich male hormonal scent almost intoxicated Yiqing Luo's heart. Dmo Xian's thin lips curled up frivolously. I haven't seen you for 3 days. I miss you so much that I'm going crazy. How can I not hug you? The man's words of love were husky and magnetic. A pair of blazing eyes, as if a raging fire was about to burn. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red. Her brain had already been seduced by the man's sweet nothings. But her body was still resisting the man's intimate embrace again. Dmo Xian held both her hands that were pushing him away. His low and husky voice was mellow and sexy. Haven't seen me for 3 days, don't you miss me? She wanted to say no. His lips parted slightly, but not a single word came out. Why was it that she was always the one who was unable to extricate herself from Dmo Xian's seduction? Why did you reject me? Dmo Xian saw that she had stopped struggling and continued to tempt her with a low and husky laugh. Yiqing Luo's hands were held by him and her body was locked in his embrace, so there was no way for her to escape. In the end, she could only blush as she muttered, I haven't bathed in 3 days. The smell stinks. Finishing her words, she buried her face into Dmo Xian's arms. He was so embarrassed that he didn't want to speak anymore. But, after she finished her words, silence pervaded the air. This made Yiqing Luo feel even more embarrassed. After a moment of silence, she was angered by this strange atmosphere, gritting her teeth as she raised her head and stared angrily at Dmo Xian. Chapter 3099. Ha. Ha 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 ha. The man burst out laughing. His chest undulated, showing how carefree the man was when he laughed. The more he laughed, Yiqing Luo only felt more embarrassed. She bit her lower lip, struggled her hands and snorted angrily, laugh, laugh, laugh. Laugh all you want. The more she struggled, the tighter the man hugged her. Also, the more wantonly he laughed. Perhaps he sensed the young lady in his arms, whose anger was on the verge of exploding. Dmo Xian smiled as he held her slender waist tightly, his thin lips slowly landed on her lips. I don't despise you. Yi Qing Luo. Her cheeks turned even redder. This was no longer embarrassment, but annoyance. Unfortunately, the man unknowingly raised his hand and gently rubbed Yi Qing Luo's hair. Even if you don't bathe for 3 years, I won't despise you. Dmo Xian. Yi Qing Luo gritted her teeth, raised her elbow and was about to knock Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian laughed lightly as he blocked her hand. Following that, his long arms scooped. Conveniently, he carried her up by the waist. Yi Qing Luo's hands instinctively hooked around his neck. All right, I'll stop teasing you. No matter how I tease you, your face is still so ugly. Dmo Xian gently kissed her eyes. Rest first, I'll call you later. No. Today is the 3rd day, we need. Yi Qing Luo shook her head. I'll arrange it and set off immediately. Dmo Xian interrupted her words. Rest first, I'll help you bathe and change your clothes. Yi Qing Luo. How on earth did he say to help her bathe in such a serious manner? It's not the first time I helped you bathe, why are you still shy? Dmo Xian sensed her gaze and looked down at her. Yi Qing Luo. Can't be shy if it's not the first time. Don't say it as if helping her bathe was a very normal thing. Dmo Xian laughed softly. Don't worry, I won't take the opportunity to do anything to you. He paused and continued. You're so tired, no matter what I do to you, you don't have any reaction, this is so boring. Yi Qing Luo. Could she hammer him to death? In the end, Yi Qing Luo couldn't resist the physical exhaustion and sleepiness as she fell into a deep sleep after messing around with Dmo Xian for a while. By the time Yi Qing Luo woke up, it was already noon the next day. She opened her eyes and saw the man's smooth chin. At this moment, she was lying on Dmo Xian's lap and her arms were still wrapped around his waist. This posture, it was a little too ambiguous. She blinked her eyes, still a little confused. Sensing that Yi Qing Luo had woken up, the man lowered his eyes. The obsidian-like peach blossom eyes reflected into Yi Qing Luo's pupils. Their eyes met. You're awake? Are you hungry? Dmo Xian caressed her face lightly. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes again and after some time, she seemed to have recalled something as she sat up abruptly. Didn't you say that you would wake me up after helping me bathe? Pfft, an irrepressible chuckle came from the side. Yi Qing Luo immediately turned her head over. She then discovered that she was sitting in a carriage similar to a horse carriage and the curtains on both sides were fluttering from time to time. Yi Qing Luo could see a large patch of white clouds moving backwards rapidly. Which meant to say. Now, it was little Nine who was dragging the carriage, running wildly in the sky. That laughter seemed to come from outside the carriage. Yi Qing Luo immediately climbed up from Dmo Xian's lap and pulled the curtains open. She saw Tang Beiyuan who was riding on a flying magical beast outside the curtains, looking at her with an evil smile. Chapter 3100. I was wondering why the Overlord personally carried you up the carriage, so. Everything was because the Overlord was serving you. Tang Beiyuan lowered her voice to tease. But she intentionally emphasized on the word, serving. Yi Qing Luo tugged the curtains hard and shrank back into the carriage. She stared furiously at Dmo Xian. Why didn't you tell me that we're on the way to South Continent? You didn't give me a chance to speak. Dmo Xian was innocent. Yi Qing Luo was embarrassed as she pursed her lips. It's all your fault, you didn't wake me up earlier, it's so embarrassing. You're very tired and need to rest. Dmo Xian stretched out his hand and pulled the young lady into his arms. They all know that you're my future wife and you won't be embarrassed. His delicate kiss landed on her forehead. They also don't dare to laugh at you. Yi Qing Luo shrank backwards, avoiding his kiss with an unhappy look. It was easy to say. They didn't dare to laugh, but not knowing how to laugh were two different things. Dmo Xian's underlings had heard their private words. She couldn't even look at them in the eye in future. Yiqing Luo wanted to cry, but no tears came out, so embarrassed that she wanted to turn back time. Her evasion made Dmo Xian misunderstood. He tightened his arm and lifted her lower jaw as his fingertip brushed past her lips. I said before, I don't despise you, don't hide from me. Yiqing Luo, despise your grandpa. I despise you. Just as Yiqing Luo was filled with embarrassment, a knocking sound was heard from outside the carriage. Yiqing Luo walked over with a green face as she lifted the curtains. Tang Beiyuan, you still want to tease. Her words were stuck in her throat when she saw the figure outside the carriage. After the curtains were lifted, what he saw was an extremely grave and stern face. Black pupils were as cold as ice as he fixed his eyes on her, as though he wanted to freeze her into ice. So cold that it was bone-chilling. The anger on Yiqing Luo's face slowly dissipated. Chu Wu Xian. Outside the carriage, riding on a huge green wolf, wasn't that Chu Wu Xian? The human face in Chu Wu Xian's right arm had yet to be resolved. They were heading towards South Continent. Zhu Wuxin indeed had to accompany them. Was he the one who helped you bathe yesterday? Zhu Wuxin asked with a cold expression. Yiqing Luo frowned. Couldn't he tell that she really didn't want to discuss this topic? Evidently, Zhu Wuxin could not tell. Seeing that Yiqing Luo didn't reply, Zhu Wu Xian continued asking, did you willingly allow him to help you wash or did he force you? Yiqing Luo, she pulled down the curtain again, blocking Zhu Wuxin's face. Yiqing Luo, if he forced you, tell me. I will help you take revenge. Zhu Wu Xian did not give up and said coldly from outside the carriage. You, shut up. Yiqing Luo couldn't take it anymore. His rage was about to be ignited. Dmo Xian embraced her once again. Her body fell backwards and fell into Dmo Xian's arms. The man's hands encircled her waist. A large palm was still pressed against her abdomen. The scorching and thick feeling made Yiqing Luo's petite body tremble slightly. Lil Luo, or is this Lord's future wife? This is merely a normal action and has nothing to do with you. Dmo Xian's calm voice rang faintly. His long and narrow peach blossom eyes curled as a cold glint flashed past the corners of his eyes. Lil Luo, is this Lord's future wife so naturally, this is also voluntary. Outside the carriage, Zhu Wu Xian didn't say another word. Chapter 3101. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo's little hand held onto Dmo Xian's big palm as she called out to him softly, don't say any more. I'm so sorry. I'm merely telling the truth to those pestering people. Dmo Xian's eyes were sinister as he looked outside the curtain, as though he was looking at Zhu Wu Xian through the carriage. Yiqing Luo wanted to say something as she raised her head to look at him. But she discovered that Dmo Xian's expression was extremely ugly. She was stunned, but in the end, she didn't say anything else. Dmo Xian's vinegar jar was overturned again. So be it if he was embarrassed. Anyway, love and whatnot should be flaunted. Just let Dmo Xian declare his sovereignty, his ownership. If it could let Zhu Wu Xian know that he should back off, that would be even better. The group of people, under the tense and strange atmosphere, under the acceleration of their own war pets. That night, they arrived at South Continent's main city, Valley Wind City. After walking out of the carriage, Yiqing Luo was stunned by the current situation in Valley Wind City. She remembered. Previously, when she took part in the Academy's exchange meet, she came to South Continent. The prosperous scene in South Continent was still fresh in her memory. But now, it made one's heart heavy. The sky was filled with a dense mass of flying beasts, as though dark clouds were rolling. And it was faintly mixed with lightning and thunder. The magical beasts' roars and the flying beasts' cries rose and fell, wave after wave. Looking at Valley Wind City, the flames of war raged in the sky. Figures dressed in black Palace of Darkness uniform walked back and forth. Magical beasts, flying beasts, Palace of Darkness people as well as dead corpses and puppets, filled the entire Valley Wind City. Ah! Help! Suddenly, a miserable cry was heard not far ahead. Everyone looked towards the direction of the sound. They saw a few commoners being pressed onto the ground by a few magical beasts. They only managed to make a few cries for help before they were torn into pieces by the magical beasts. It was extremely cruel and bloody. The people from Palace of Darkness are too cruel. Tang Beiyuan was also stunned by this scene. Ah Yu, Ah Lei, and Ah Feng, the three guardians, speedily stood in front of Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo as they looked around vigilantly. The few of them's appearance. This had already attracted the attention of the demonic beasts. When I came here a few days ago, it wasn't this tragic. Tang Beiyuan sucked in a breath of cold air. Valley Wind City has become like this. Could it be that Valley Wind sect couldn't have held on? He's still holding on. Yiqing Luo's gaze shot towards the direction of Valley Wind City. There are still people fighting with the birds and beasts. From time to time, the birds in the sky would rush down and crash into the buildings in Gufeng City. The beasts were also fiercely tearing and destroying everything in Valley Wind City. But, on the city wall, there were also groups of armored soldiers dealing with the birds and beasts. There are innocent people over there. Take them to a safe place. The general on the city wall noticed that the few people were gradually surrounded by the beasts and people from the Palace of Darkness. He immediately ordered the soldiers behind him. 10 soldiers immediately flew down from the city walls, blocking in front of Yiqing Luo and the others. The soldiers were all covered with scattered wounds and there were new wounds which were still bleeding. But they clenched the weapons in their hands tightly as they stood firmly in front of Yiqing Luo and the others. Facing the savage and bloody, inhumane walking beasts, the people from Palace of Darkness had no fear at all. You all are from Valley Wind Sect? Yiqing Luo opened her mouth to ask. The soldiers turned their heads curiously as they took a look at Yiqing Luo. For any normal person, on seeing Valley Wind City turning into such a bloody and brutal scene, no matter what they did, they would be scared out of their wits. Chapter 3102. In the South Waves continent, only Valley Wind City has surviving citizens? Are the other cities still holding on? Yiqing Luo didn't bother about the soldiers' puzzlement as she continued asking. The soldiers looked at each other in dismay. One of the soldiers sized up the people in front of him. He felt that the 7 people in front of him were all handsome men and beautiful women, and they all had extraordinary temperaments. It was obvious that he was no ordinary person. Especially, why do I feel like, that beautiful girl dressed in red, who was devastatingly beautiful, looked somewhat familiar. However, with the enemy in front of him, his brain was stuffed. For a moment, he couldn't remember where he had seen her. Follow us closely. We'll bring you to the safe zone first. The soldiers didn't have the time to talk to Yiqing Luo and the others. Brandishing the weapons in his hands, he prepared to carve out a path of blood. Thousands of magical beasts and the flying beasts in the sky, even if we go to the safety zone, how long can we last? Yiqing Luo and the rest didn't move. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at the dark sky. How much longer can Valley Wind City last? The soldiers were startled, and they tightened their grip on their weapons. The expressions on their faces became stern and determined. As long as our Valley Wind sect does not fall, Valley Wind City will definitely hold on. You are already standing in Valley Wind City. These birds and beasts will not let you go. All of you come with us immediately. Our Valley Wind sect's young sect master and elders are guarding there. The secluded Darkness Palace won't be able to harm you for the time being. Wind Valley sect. Yiqing Luo's brows rose slightly as her lips curled into an extremely shallow arc. Then that's right. What? The soldiers still hadn't understood the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words. Suddenly, he felt a formless pressure spreading from behind him. Soon after, the beautiful young lady with a sweet smile quickly charged into the surging magical beasts ahead. The soldier's eyes widened. "Miss. Be careful. Those demonic beasts had no humanity. I just don't understand." Before he could say the words, tender and protective of the fairer sex, the soldiers were so shocked by the scene before them that they couldn't utter a single word. He could only hear the roars of the wild beasts ringing in his ears. The ground shook violently, and cracks appeared on it. The sand and pebbles that filled the air turned into strong gales that blew ferociously. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of a heavy object hitting the ground could be heard. The burly, mountain-like demonic beasts that had wrapped around the young girl were all sent flying in the air like a heavenly maiden scattering flowers. The soldiers were all stunned. This girl, he looked no more than 14 or 15 years old. How could it be so powerful? In the blink of an eye, he had killed more than a dozen magical beasts that had troubled them for months. Caw, it covered the birds that filled the sky and noticed the situation here. It actually gave off a sharp cry and immediately turned into a black long arrow, charging towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Be careful. The soldiers knew very well how terrifying these birds were. He immediately raised his weapon and was about to rush over to protect Yiqing Luo. Just stay here and watch. A low and indifferent voice sounded behind him. The voice was calm, and there was not the slightest trace of emotion. However, it made the soldiers feel as if they were bound by something, unable to move. The soldiers only saw the purple-robed man who had been hugging the young girl from the corner of their eyes, staring at the young girl's direction with adoration. They could obviously see it. The purple-robed man's worry towards that young girl. Chapter 3103. Soldiers. They were obviously arranged to save these people. But they were actually said to be a burden? They were feeling indignant. But the next moment, they saw the sky filled with burning flames and the flying beasts which had fallen onto the ground. They were convinced. Their naked eyes could only see a red shadow, scurrying around. The speed was extremely fast. Everywhere it went. One by one, the flying beasts fell from the sky as though they were free. In just a moment, there were already close to 100 overflying beasts lying on the ground. Piled up on the ground, it formed a small hill. Perhaps they sensed that Yiqing Luo wasn't someone to be trifled with. The sky full of flying beasts started to scurry into the sky, not daring to have any offensive actions. Swoosh, a gust of strong wind brushed past. The soldiers had yet to react. They heard a young lady's sweet voice coming from behind. These flying beasts are the lowest grade and have no consciousness, so they are easy to deal with. The soldiers were dumbfounded. The young lady flew forward and then back. At most it took less than half an incense's time. After that, the ground was filled with magical beasts' corpses and flying beasts' corpses. This was simply too perverted. You've worked hard. Dmo Xian pulled her into his arms as his large palm gently caressed her fine black hair. Yiqing Luo's brows curved as she hooked her arms around his neck. I'm so tired after killing so many flying beasts at once. Dmo Xian smiled as he hugged the young lady's waist without any hesitation, encircling her in his arms. The young lady's face was filled with satisfaction as she leaned against Dmo Xian's chest, like a kitten, intimately rubbing against his chest. The surrounding 10 over soldiers were dumbstruck. Was this still the battle goddess who went on a killing spree earlier? Just a moment ago, she was still a perverted expert who didn't kill any flying beasts in an instant. The next moment, she had become a delicate little beauty. This span, did it need to be so huge? What's going on? Why are you still standing here for? Hurry and bring them to the safety zone. If the Palace of Darkness army rushes over, you won't be able to leave. Because Yiqing Luo had killed hundreds of flying beasts. The birds hovering in the sky stopped their attack on Gufeng City for a while. The general on top of the city wall got empty, and when he looked towards Yiqing Luo and the rest, he discovered that they were still standing on the same spot, not moving at all as he bellowed angrily and anxiously. The 10 odd soldiers came back to their senses, their faces filled with shock. They carefully looked behind them at the 7 people with extraordinary auras. "Everyone, please follow us to see the great general. The South Tide continent needs talented people like you to save the South Tide continent." One of the soldiers looked at Yiqing Luo and the others in anticipation and joy. "We'll talk about it when we get there." Yiqing Luo popped out her little head and smiled at them. Towards these 10 over soldiers, Yiqing Luo had a good impression of them. After all, when Valley Wind City was on the brink of life and death, for the sake of Valley Wind City and for the sake of the innocent people, the generals and soldiers who were willing to stand guard here were worthy of respect. This place was indeed not the right place to talk. A group of people quickly headed towards the city wall. Along the way, they were obstructed by demonic beasts and patrolling disciples of the Palace of Darkness. The soldiers didn't even have time to make a move. They were cut down like cabbages by the 3 youngsters dressed as protectors who had been guarding the side of the purple-robed man, one by one. Very quickly, the group of people reached the top of Gufeng City's city wall. The general speedily went up, but facing these 7 people who obviously had extraordinary auras, he couldn't help but be stunned. Chapter 3104. When the general saw this, he couldn't be bothered to inquire about their identities as he hurriedly called for the doctor. This enthusiasm made Yiqing Luo a little embarrassed as she nestled in Dmo Xian's arms pretending to be a white lotus. "Grand General, Grand General." The soldiers who followed Yiqing Luo and the rest hurriedly went up to stop the general as they started talking at once. "Grand General, you've misunderstood. That young lady isn't injured. Our Valley Wind City is saved. Grand General, let them join us. As long as they're around, Palace of Darkness's schemes will absolutely not succeed." "That's right, Grand General, they're very strong. Extremely strong. As long as they make a move, these magical beasts and flying beasts will all be settled." The 10 over soldiers were totally convinced of Yiqing Luo's abilities. The chatter caused the general's head to throb. The commotion over here attracted the attention of the other station soldiers. Instantly pairs of scrutinizing gazes swept past Yiqing Luo and the others. Apparently, they didn't believe that these 7 people were as powerful as what these 10 over soldiers said. After all, these few people had extraordinary bearings as their actions were elegant and noble, and they were excessively good-looking. No matter how they looked, they didn't look like people who roamed around the battlefield. The soldier abruptly raised his hand, interrupting the voices that were still trying to persuade him. "Enough, enough. All of you shut up for this general." Instantly, the 10 over soldiers seemed as though they had pressed the silent button as they shut their mouths. "You say, these 7 people are very powerful and are able to deal with these flying beasts?" The general frowned as he asked. The soldiers nodded their heads in unison. The general's gaze swept past those 10 over soldiers and saw that their eyes were filled with worship and expectations towards Yiqing Luo and the others. The general's brows creased even tighter as he shifted his gaze towards Yiqing Luo and the others. After some time, he frowned as he shook his head. No matter how skilled and daring they are still made of flesh and blood. We don't know what sinister method Palace of Darkness used to control the endless amount of flying beasts and beasts. Especially when Palace of Darkness has a batch of monsters. At this point, the general's tone became much more solemn. They are but innocent outsiders. We can't drag these innocent people into the conflict of the South Tide continent. That's right, we can't involve innocent people anymore. There are only 7 of them. Not only does the Palace of Gloom have the help of demonic beasts and birds, they also have that group of monsters. We can't harm them. When the other soldiers heard this, they all agreed with the great general's words. The general waved his hand, calming the restless hearts of the soldiers. Following that, he cupped his fists towards Yiqing Luo and the others. "Everyone, thank you for being willing to help, but we're not willing to implicate innocent people, causing you to lose your lives in vain. You should head to the safe zone. Once the people from Palace of Gloomy Darkness leave, We will send people to escort you out of the South Tide continent. Are you sure you wish for us to leave? Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she raised her head from Dmo Xian's arms. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. Her smile was enchanting, like a blooming poppy, with a charm that could capture one's soul. When the general's vision was fixed on Yiqing Luo's devastatingly beautiful face, his pupils, bit by bit, slowly expanded. Following that general knelt onto the ground with a put-on sound. His head knocked hard onto the ground. Chapter 3105. To the generals and soldiers, Chen Changxing's expression changed. The great general was their spiritual pillar. From defending Valley Wind City till now, they had never seen the great general lowering his head. Even if it was the people from secluded palace who made use of those monsters to attack the city. The great general had always held his head high and never retreated. Even when facing the sect master of Valley Wind sect, the great general had never lowered his head. This was the first time they saw. The great general had lost his composure. Plop. Dong. After the days. One after another, the soldiers followed their great general and knelt down. No matter what the reason was for the great general to lose his composure. As long as the great general felt that it was right. They felt that it was right. Not long later, there were 20 over people kneeling on the city walls. The great general's kneeling. It also made Yiqing Luo and the rest dumbfounded. Yiqing Luo kept the enchanting smile on her lips as she coughed lightly. Great general, please get up first. The great general raised his head as his eyes turned red and his muscles were all tensed up. Miss Yi, Overlord. I beg you, please save the South Continent. Miss Yi? Overlord? The soldiers were all stunned when they heard this form of address. Soon after, an uproar broke out. All of them couldn't suppress the excitement in their hearts as they had long lost their rationality as they raised their heads and stared at Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo. Miss Yi? The one who saved the various academies' elites in Nirvana realm in the blazing flame nest and saved her own continent, the one who was conferred as a heroine. Three Springs Clan's 7th Miss, Yiqing Luo. Overlord? Is he the legendary Dizun? I heard that. Overlord and heroine Yi are fiancé and fiancé. If they were to appear, they would definitely appear at the same time. So, these two people are really the heroine and overlord? The soldiers were so excited that they almost cheered. Those 10 over soldiers who were sent to save Yiqing Luo and the rest were suddenly enlightened. I was wondering why Miss Yi looked so familiar. So she is the heroine in the portrait. Yiqing Luo listened to the soldiers' excited discussion. She was embarrassed as she patted Dmo Xian's arm, asking him to put her down. She had no idea when she had become so famous. Under the expectant and worshipful gazes of so many people. She really felt embarrassed. To continue acting as her little white lotus, nestling in Dmo Xian's arms. After all, her title was the title of such a rough man. Heroine, hero, Yiqing Luo wiped off her sweat. When both her feet were on the ground, Yiqing Luo straightened her red robe and cleared her throat. That great general, please get up first. The general's eyes were resolute as he clenched his fists and said, I beg Lady Yi and Lord Dizun to help the West Continent. Yiqing Luo sighed and with a wave of her sleeves, an invisible profound energy stirred up a breeze, forcefully, supporting the great general up. Since we're here, it means that we're willing to help South Water Continent. The general's eyes reddened and he gripped his weapon tightly. Since Lady Yi and Lord Dizun are willing to help, South Tide Continent definitely has hope, definitely, he had persisted for the past few days. Seeing the brothers around him getting fewer and fewer. The more the general persevered, the more despair he felt. Chapter 3106. He recalled that the sect master of the Gufeng sect had said that as long as they could hold on for a few days, the imperial palace would send people over to help. He waited and waited. Finally, he waited for them. Don't put too much hope in us. Yi Qing Luo looked at the Grand General, whose eyes were turning red as her lips curled upwards, and gave a faint smile. But, we will try our best. Thank you. Thank you, Imperial Palace, for being willing to lend a helping hand. Chow, can't thank you enough. After this matter is over, I am willing to do anything for the Imperial Palace to repay the Imperial Palace for saving my life. The general knelt on the ground once again, and his voice was sonorous and powerful. The soldiers also cupped their fists and knelt on one knee, saying in unison, "Thank you, Imperial Palace, for lending a hand." Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and waved, indicating for them to get up. "There's no need for you to thank the Imperial Palace, and there's no need for the great general to work like a cow or horse to repay you. The reason why the Emperor Palace acted was because they had reached an agreement with your sect master." A deal? The general was taken aback. He couldn't figure out what kind of deal it was that could move the Imperial Palace and make the Dizun personally take action. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly. "Yes, this is the deal between the Imperial Palace and Gu Feng Sect's patriarch. No matter what your motive is, the fact that the Imperial Palace is willing to lend a hand at this critical moment is the benefactor of our Wind Valley sect," the general said solemnly. The soldiers said in unison, "That's right. Thank you, Imperial Palace, for lending a helping hand. TSK. I was wondering why you bastards suddenly became so brave. It turns out that help has arrived." Suddenly, a mocking voice sounded from below the city. Suddenly, a huge pressure surged in the surroundings. When the soldiers, who were still rejoicing, heard this voice, their expressions immediately darkened. The general suddenly stood up from the ground. His hand that was holding his weapon trembled continuously. His muscles were tense as if he was suppressing some sort of emotion. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly as she held on to Dmo Xian's arm and walked to the front of the city. Unknowingly, hundreds of gigantic magical beasts had surrounded them. There were also disciples dressed in the uniform of the Palace of Darkness, as well as stiff and expressionless corpses. Yi Qing Luo surveyed the surroundings. He estimated that there were about 100 disciples from the Palace of Darkness. There were nearly 50 undead puppets. But, he could tell, these nearly 50 undead corpse puppets were not the half-finished products that he had seen for the first time. Instead, it was a defective product from when the Fox Saint technique had led them to invade the Miao tribe. Defective products were much easier to deal with than semi-finished products. At the very least, in terms of mental strength, the three guardians, Ayu, Ale, and Afeng, were stronger than defective goods. Therefore, they didn't need any special weapons to kill those undead corpse puppets. Yi Qing Luo's gaze swept around as she was thinking of countermeasures. His line of sight suddenly locked onto a figure. When he saw the man's face clearly, Yi Qing Luo's expression congealed. "It's you?" That person was dressed in a navy blue brocade robe. He was a middle-aged man in his 30s or 40s. He was very handsome and had the charm of a playboy. He stood in the middle of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. His posture was relaxed, and there was even a smirk at the corner of his mouth. Yi Qing Luo had met this person before. However, he had only seen it once. He didn't have a deep impression of her. The reason why she remembered him, or was it because of a certain someone? "Student Yi Qing Luo, I didn't expect you to still remember me." That man laughed softly. "It's my honor." Chapter 3107. Yi Qing Luo's face was full of ridicule. The dignified Elephant Saint technique has now become a scapegoat for the Palace of Darkness? Elephant Saint technique's expression changed slightly, but his lips quickly curled into a playboy smile. After all, student Yi Qing Luo was so ruthless towards the dark forces. If the dark forces wanted to survive, they could only seek a backer. He paused for a moment and chuckled. "Everyone wants to live, the dark forces are no exception. Taking orders from the Palace of Darkness, working for the Palace of Darkness, becoming a scapegoat for the Palace of Darkness, this kind of ignoble existence really suits your character of hiding in the dark corners." Yi Qing Luo ridiculed them without any restraint. Xiang Shengfa clicked his tongue as he stroked his chin. I've always heard my companions talk about how sharp your tongue is and how powerful you are. Today I've met you, you indeed live up to your reputation. No wonder you're the one who caused the dark forces to be unable to make a comeback, student Yi Qing Luo. This sarcastic emphasis made Yi Qing Luo extremely unhappy when she heard it. Student Yi Qing Luo, I'm very curious. How did you know my identity? Elephant Saint Technique raised his brows. All along, it's always Old Wolf, that fellow showing his face outside. You should have never seen me before. Because of Si Yen Mu. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes. You think you've concealed it very well, but Si Yen Mu's profound yin qi can't be concealed. Elephant Saint Technique clapped his hands. Not only do you know my identity, you also know about my relationship with Mu Mu. Not bad, not bad. You're indeed smart. I'm not interested in your relationship. Yi Qing Luo's expression was indifferent. That's right, this is all in the past. Elephant Saint Technique nodded in agreement. This is not the Heavenly Academy. I'm not the Dark Forces Saint Technique. I'm now just a lackey of the Palace of Darkness. I have to follow the mission assigned by the Palace of Darkness. Yi Qing Luo's brows knitted tightly. Her squinted eyes were suffused with a faint chill. This Elephant Saint Technique and Wolf Saint Technique were completely different types of people. If it was Wolf Saint Technique, Wolf Saint Technique was already enraged by her sarcastic words earlier. But, not only was Elephant Saint Technique still in a peaceful mood, he could even laugh at himself calmly. It could be seen that his psychological quality was extremely strong. Such a person was even more difficult to deal with. Student Yi Qing Luo, I didn't expect that. You would actually help South Water Continent. Xiang Shengfa looked curiously at the general standing beside Yi Qing Luo. Since when has the Imperial Palace been so kind? Yi Qing Luo replied, compared to the Palace of Darkness and you bunch of lackeys, I like the South Continent more, so naturally I will help the South Continent. Xiang Shengfa shook his head helplessly. What a pity. I thought we could take down Valley Wind City today. Looks like we'll have to spend some more time. I really want to continue reminiscing with you, but Valley Wind City has yet to be conquered. I am pressed for time, so I can only slowly reminisce in the future. His words fell. Xiang Shengfa pretended to be casual as he smiled. His fingers gently brushed the hair on his forehead. He pretended to be suave and threw a coquettish wink at Yi Qing Luo. Just as she cast a flirtatious glance, Xiang Shengfa's frivolous face suddenly turned extremely sinister, and his voice turned gloomy. Attack the city. He gave the order. A sharp and intimidating beast's roar and birds' cries instantly resounded through the entire sky. The Palace of Darkness disciples raised their arms and clamored loudly. Chapter 3108. Damn it. The general's vision fell onto the corpse puppets and his face was filled with shock. Not good. Miss Yi, those monsters, you must be careful. They are all impenetrable by water and fire. When the soldiers saw the corpse puppets, their faces revealed an astonished expression. They weren't willing to boost others' morale and diminish their own prestige. But during this period of time, the corpse puppets had brought them fear and bloodiness, which made their bodies instinctively produce fear. To them, the corpse puppets were their nightmare. As compared to thousands of troops and horses, it was even more terrifying. No worries. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she gazed at the magical beasts and Nether Palace's disciples pouncing over, and those stiff but extremely fast corpse puppets. Just help me take care of this friend of mine. Yi Qing Luo glanced sideways as she looked at Zhu Wu Xian's direction. Leave the rest to us. The soldiers looked at Zhu Wu Xian and looked at the bottom of the city, at the clamoring crowd from Nether Palace. They were slightly hesitant. Those monsters are really scary, totally able to fight against 100. Adding on so many Nether Palace's disciples and flying beasts, the few of you really don't need our help? The general's expression was solemn. we've already sent out an emergency signal to Gu Feng's sect and they will immediately send people over to support us. And a few days ago, the disciples from the Imperial Palace will also rush over. After the general finished his words, he raised his head and looked at Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo. Let's face the enemy together and drag the time. As long as the reinforcements rush over, we will definitely be able to defend Valley Wind City. You've been fighting for such a long time and your stamina can't keep up. Even if you force yourself to fight, you're merely using your own life to drag that short moment of time. Yiqing Luo's eyes were calm as she fixed her gaze on the general. I believe Grand General also doesn't want to see your own brothers sacrificing themselves in vain. The general's expression sunk as he clenched his fists tightly, but... No buts. Yiqing Luo shot her vision towards the bottom of the city, at the magical beasts which had already started to attack Valley Wind City. Help me take care of that friend of mine, that's the best repayment. Yiqing Luo left this sentence behind. With a leap, she was already on top of the city wall. With a flick of her palm, a devouring flame fan appeared at her fingertips. Then, she flew down. Her red robe was burning with the most brilliant light. With a flick of her wrist, the feather fan opened up, and an endless amount of profound energy gathered on the feather fan, transforming into numerous wind blades that slashed downwards. That wind blade was stained with this seductive red glow. They were like sharp blades that cut through everything around them. Wherever the wind blades went, the burly and strong magical beasts fell to the ground one by one without any warning. It even crushed many disciples of the Palace of Darkness to death. The magical beast collapsed. The wind blades slashed towards the disciples of the Palace of Darkness. A bloody path was carved out. Screech! Yiqing Luo's feet had just landed at the bottom of the city wall when the sky was filled with a patch of darkness, suddenly charging down in unison. Sharp cries sounded as though it was going to pierce through one's eardrums, as it rang in succession. One after another huge flying beasts flapped their wings, setting off a violent gale, sweeping up the sand on the ground, rolling like clouds as sand and stones flew. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she calmly looked at the hundreds of flying beasts charging towards her. Chapter 3109. Hundreds of flying beasts were bent on seeking revenge for their companions. Each and every one of them revealed an ominous glint in their eyes as they opened their mouths. These flying beasts' mouths were actually filled with terrifying sharp teeth. And they kept on giving out terrifying sharp cries. The murderous aura filled the sky as it entangled with the flying sand and pebbles. In the haze, the young lady's fiery figure was faintly discernible. The flying beast's speed was extremely fast and the young lady apparently had no intention to evade. The soldiers' eyes were all opened wide as they kept shouting for Yiqing Luo to quickly evade. But their voices had just been shouted out. The sky full of flying beasts was about to close in on Yiqing Luo. Bam! Just as everyone was trembling in fear. Suddenly, a thunderous explosion exploded in the air. A majestic profound energy was like a rolling wave as it surged forward. In an instant, it enveloped the entire battlefield. The moment the hundreds of flying beasts swooped down, Lin Fan's eyes widened. As though they had crashed into something. Each of the flying beasts gave out a sharp ear-piercing cry, which was totally different from the previous threats and warnings. If one listened carefully, it sounded extremely like a cry for help and pain. But in an instant, while the flying beasts were screaming miserably. In the sky, one after another huge flying beasts kept falling. It was totally in an instant. Earlier those hundreds of flying beasts which had charged downwards towards Yiqing Luo, none of them survived. The surrounding flying sand was still lingering and rolling. The air waves were still rolling. But in the haze, everyone could still see clearly. Overlord, Overlord. Everyone's expression congealed instantly. The tall and imposing figure standing in front of Yiqing Luo, wasn't that Dmo Xian? His purple robe was fluttering due to the strong wind and his jet black hair was also flying along with the wind, which set off that peerless face of his, making him look like a banished immortal. He slowly retracted his right hand. The surrounding profound energy, along with his action, gradually stopped. Without the strong wind waves, it lingered in the air. The surrounding flying sand and pebbles also stopped. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Heavens! The Overlord only used one hand and annihilated hundreds of flying beasts in minutes? This was simply too powerful. Just one hand. From the looks of it, it seemed as though he didn't use any profound energy at all and he had easily suppressed those birds. It was simply too cool. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo's pink lips perked up as she hugged Dmo Xian's arm with one hand. I knew you would block in front of me. Dmo Xian glanced sideways slightly, his eyes filled with gentleness and pampering. You've just recuperated, you can play and enjoy yourself. Don't tire yourself out. Yiqing Luo smiled as she nodded. Don't worry about me, these dregs will at most let me warm up. Dmo Xian rubbed her head affectionately. The two of them looked at each other and smiled warmly. In the eyes of the people from the Palace of Darkness, their sweet talk was blatant disdain and mockery. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian didn't intentionally lower their voices when they spoke earlier. Basically, everyone present heard the conversation between the two of them. This blatant disdain and disdainful attitude infuriated the people of Dark Nether Palace. Don't think that just because the Overlord is here, you can win. Valley Wind City will definitely belong to us Palace of Darkness. Right. We, the people from Palace of Darkness, are not afraid of the Overlord at all. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.